Welcome back. Today in studio with me is Dr. David Law, and he is with MemorialCare Saddleback Medical Center. And he has been an icon in this area for quite some time, since 1976. So you've seen a lot of changes over the years, I'm sure. But primarily, let's talk about you and some of the things that you've done over time.
Well, by trade, I'm a pulmonologist. I've boarded in pulmonary medicine and in internal medicine. And I practiced pulmonary and critical care medicine ever since I came to Saddleback in 1976 and before. And I retired from clinical practice in 2016, but I really remained active at Saddleback and a number of other areas. And most importantly, the one we're going to talk about today, age-friendly healthcare.
Right, right. Now, I did read something a little bit about on your bio, is that you got out of a primary type of doctor and you went to what you're currently doing so you could spend more time with your patients. So I imagine that's part of the age-friendly, or what does that mean?
Well, age-friendly refers to a framework of care for older adults. And it refers to implementation of an evidence-based set of practices that are applied for every patient in every setting, and reliably done so.
Okay.
And this set of practices is referred to as the 4 M's, which stands for what matters most: medication, mentation, and movement.
Okay, now actually we do have a little slide that I wanted to show, because I wanted to ask you specifically about one of the M's, which I was not familiar with, the mentation. Now, what does mentation actually mean?
Well, it's important to support normal cognitive and mental function, particularly in older adults. And the M that refers to mentation means we screen regularly for such entities as dementia, depression, and in the hospital specifically for delirium. Delirium, which is that state of confusion which older adults are prone to, and it occurs very frequently and it can have devastating outcomes.
Wow. Okay, and then talk about some of the other M's.
Well, the most important M really is what matters most. Now, when patients see their physician or go to the hospital or the emergency room, usually we ask, what's the matter? This turns it around, is what matters most. What's most important to patients according to their preferences, their healthcare outcomes, their values, and most importantly, aligning care according to what matters most.
I see. And is this being applied across the hospital in general, or is this something that you've created in your division?
Well, no, this is something that's being implemented in the hospital for all patients 65 and over.
Oh, okay.
The 4 M's are being hardwired into routine care. And we talked about what matters most, we talked about mentation, but also medication and movement are the other 2 parts of the 4 M's. And these are evidence-based practices, meaning that each one of these has been shown to improve outcomes, to reduce unnecessary services, to conserve resources, and also to improve patient satisfaction.
Okay, so give me an example. I come to you, and what are some of the first things that you're going to ask me as a patient?
Well, the first thing is what matters most. What's important to you? Here you are in the hospital. What's most important to you about this hospitalization? Oh. But this is going to be asked by nurses on every shift. So we might ask, well, today, what matters most for you today? What's important for you today? And it might mean something not even related to why they came into the hospital. Like, I'm concerned about my pet at home. It really has me it's on my mind. It allows the staff to do something to relieve the anxiety of that particular problem. It also means that nurses will be screening patients for delirium every shift with evidence-based tools. It means that we will review medications for high-risk medications and try to de-prescribe where possible. It also means patients are going to move safely every day. We want to ambulate patients 3 times a day. We want to make sure they eat in the seat. Trays will no longer be delivered in bed. They will be brought out of bed to eat in a chair.
Now, is this something that you came up with, or is it something that you learned about, or tell me how it came about?
This is really the brainchild of the Institute for Healthcare Improvement and the John A. Hartford Foundation. And it came because there's a crisis facing the American healthcare system, particularly patients 65 and over. there's three factors we need to consider. Number one, this demographic is going to double over the next 20, 25 years. 25% of the entire population is going to be 65 or over. Secondly, it's a very complex demographic. When patients my age, and I'll include myself in this number, have a number of chronic illnesses, 2, 3, 4, 5 chronic illnesses, which creates complexity in their care. And the third thing is this demographic, it suffers a disproportionate share of harms, not just falls in the hospital and delirium, but also access to care. Polypharmacy, many of these patients are 10, 12, 14 medications, which create problems with what matters most to patients. And our healthcare policymakers have determined that the healthcare system is not prepared for this situation. The IHI, the Institute for Healthcare Improvement, and the John A. Hartford Foundation sought a solution. And this is where the age-friendly healthcare has come from. This is where the 4 M's have come from. So we're not going to go into the long story about how they got there. But these are evidence-based best practices that will be applied to patients, not just in the hospital, but the ideal is to spread this not only to hospital, but to physician practices, to clinics, to skilled nursing facilities, to rehab facilities, and to communities like Laguna Woods Village.
Right, and how long ago did this start?
We got involved in this in September of 2018, and we were among the first 70 healthcare systems to become involved. So it's new. It's been developed over many years, but really its application and its implementation had just started in 2018. And it is the goal of the age-friendly healthcare movement that by 2020, 20% of all care settings will be age-friendly.
Wow. That's really great that you guys were able to get in on it early. That's excellent. And so other than the age-friendly movement, is there other things that you're seeing that's changing over time?
Well, a couple of things that we've done at Saddleback. We have made every effort to remove risky medications from order sets, from physicians' order sets. For instance, sedatives and hypnotics. Sleeping pills like Restoril and Ambien, we've removed from order sets and have substituted other alternatives. We have created an opportunity for patients to have 6 uninterrupted hours of sleep at Saddleback by changing a lot of our policies and procedures. So that's something that's
actually good, because I think people would probably say that they never get to sleep because they're always checking on you.
And that is one of the contributors to delirium. It contributes to falls, and it interferes with what matters most to patients while they're in the hospital.
God, that's great. I think we should maybe start that at work. Like, what matters most to you today, right? Because we come to work or wherever our place of business is with lots of things that have happened to us that night or the day before. So I think that's really a great policy. That's excellent. Okay, so you've got something coming up here on October 30th. It's a presentation. Tell me about that.
Well, this is being set up by Social Services at Laguna Woods Village. And we've entitled it "What Matters to You Matters to Us," and it's an opportunity to do a deep dive into the 4 M's. And one of the requests from residents here at Laguna Woods Village is talking about falls, fall prevention. And understanding the 4 M's and how they interact with one another is a good entree in discussing how to prevent falls and the importance of implementation of those processes.
Right. Now, I mean, just as an example, what are maybe the 2 things that you would recommend to somebody about how to prevent falling?
Well, we look at falls as a symptom. The root cause is immobility. That's number one. And in the hospital, we note that 80% of falls occur in patients who have cognitive impairment, who have early dementia, who have developed delirium. So screening for dementia, even in the community, screening for early cognitive impairment is extremely important because things can be done to help adapt to that, including exercise to prevent falls. In the hospital, anything we can do to prevent delirium is a big step towards preventing falls.
Well, that's great. And I've heard a lot of people have doing a lot of presentations and putting more effort into understanding that. So that's great that you're on that. So wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention?
We are going to be implementing a special program called the HELP program at the end of the year. That stands for Hospital Elder Life Program. And it uses highly trained volunteers to visit patients several times a day to help with cognition, with mobilization, with our non-pharmacologic sleep protocol.
Okay.
And its main function is to reduce delirium and prevent falls.
That's excellent. All right, well, thank you so much. It was very nice to have you on.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. And remember, if you want to know more about what we just talked about, you can always go to memorialcare.org/SB Age Friendly. And we'll be right back after this.